All right, how's everybody doing? Hotep. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Happy holidays to you and your family from the African History Network. It is Tuesday, December 25th, 2018. It's Christmas Day for some. So we want to say happy holidays, and we know that Kwanzaa is coming up. Kwanzaa is December 26th through January 1st. So Heri Za Kwanzaa, which means happy Kwanzaa. And I want to talk about Kwanzaa a little bit and let you know where I will be speaking, because I will be in Detroit and I will be speaking two places that I know of right now. And if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. But I will be speaking at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit the first 3 days of Kwanzaa. So it starts December 26th. Their events are, most of them are 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'll be there the first 3 days. I'll be a vendor the first 3 days, and I will be the keynote speaker the second day of Kwanzaa, which is Thursday, December 27th, Kuji Chagalia, which means self-determination. Okay. So how's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in. Still trying to get used to this new laptop I was forced to buy. So I was having problems with my other laptop. So you can celebrate Kwanzaa as well as Christmas. You don't have to celebrate one or the other. Some people don't celebrate Christmas and choose to celebrate Kwanzaa, but if you want to celebrate both, that's fine. And on Saturday, December 29th, I will be speaking at Burt's Warehouse in Detroit in the Eastern Market District. Negas Vu and the People's Coalition Committee, they're organized. They are putting together a Kwanzaa Cooperative Economics Detroit Entrepreneur Workshop. And we know the fourth principle of Kwanzaa is Ujamaa, which means cooperative economics. So that's taking place Saturday, December 29th, 2018, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Burt's Warehouse. And you can get tickets from Eventbrite, ujamaa.eventbrite.com, ujamaa.eventbrite.com. And we have the information at our website also, africanhistorynetwork.com as well. Okay, tickets are $7 there. And I will be speaking Ken Harris, who is the CEO of the National Business League, which used to be the National Negro Business League, founded by Booker T. Washington. He'll be speaking Minister Friedman, as well as Nurse Charms is the MC. Okay, so this is really good. It's geared toward, it's really good for entrepreneurs. It's open to the family as well. And we'll have vendors there. We have the African Marketplace, and I will be speaking also that Saturday, December 29th. That event is 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then once again, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, all 7 days they're doing Kwanzaa, is free and open to the public, and it's family friendly also, so you can bring the family as well. Like I said, I'll be there the first 3 days, and I'm speaking on the second day of Kwanzaa. So if we just look at some of the history here of Kwanzaa, how's everybody doing? And hopefully, and and I was thinking, I was sitting here watching, because I wasn't with family today. I'll be probably with some family tomorrow. But I was thinking, you have all these African American Christmas specials that are on TV now. You have Marry Me for Christmas, and you have A Blessing for Christmas, things like this, because I was watching some of them, right? So we need some like specials for Kwanzaa. We need like a Marry Me for Kwanzaa. We need Fighting for Kwanzaa, because you look at all these Black Christmas specials, Black Christmas movies, okay? Because 10 years ago, we didn't have all these African American Christmas movies, but there's a bunch of them now that are made for television. We need like a Charlie Brown Kwanzaa. So, because that, say, if you had like some Kwanzaa movies, that'll really probably help the popularity of Kwanzaa, right? All right. Okay, so hey, African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with us. We have a special promotion for you right now. So if we just look very briefly, right, at some of history of Kwanzaa and what Kwanzaa is about. And when I do my presentation on the Thursday, December 27th, at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, I'll deal with some of the history of Kwanzaa, but I'm going to deal with also how Kwanzaa ties into the film Black Panther, right? Because Kwanzaa helps to answer the question of who are you, who are we as African peoples, African Americans, and Kwanzaa helps to reconnect African Americans to our history and culture. Okay, so Kwanzaa is a Pan-African, African American cultural celebration. It's not a religious celebration, it's a cultural celebration. You can belong to any religion or no religion at all and still participate in Kwanzaa. We know it was created in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga and members of organization US. It wasn't Dr. Karenga by himself, it was Dr. Maulana Karenga and members of organization US, okay? And this is during the Black Power movement, very turbulent time in this country. It's during the Civil Rights movement and the Black Power movement. And when we look at Kwanzaa, right, Kwanzaa is based upon first fruit harvest festival celebrations that go back to Africa, okay? And we see some ancient first fruit harvest celebrations that it comes from. We see them coming from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. We see them coming from Nubia or Ta-Nehisi, okay, which is today basically the Sudan, the lower portion of Egypt and the upper portion of the Sudan is what was called Nubia, okay. And we see these first fruit harvest celebrations go back to the Yoruba in Nigeria, the Akan in Ghana. So these were traditional celebrations. And Kwanzaa celebrates three main things: family, community, and culture. Family, community, and culture. Okay, so Kwanzaa celebrations, we want to take our family and the children to these Kwanzaa celebrations because it's very important for our children to learn their history and culture. Okay, so like I said, it's from December 26th through January the 1st. And the reason why it runs through to January the 1st is so you take the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, known as the Nguzo Saba. You take these 7 principles into the new year and you practice them 365 days a year. The goal is not to be super black for 7 days, right? And then be a Negro the rest of the year. No, it's designed to take these principles into the new year. Now, the name Kwanzaa is derived from the phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, okay, which is Kiswahili, which is a Bantu language, right? Which ties right into Black Panther. I'll get to that in just a minute. And Matunda ya Kwanzaa means first fruits in Kiswahili. And Kiswahili is a Pan-African language. It's the most widely spoken language on the continent of Africa. And it's estimated, last time I checked, I think it's about 30 million. I think about 30 million people speak Kiswahili, if I remember correctly, last time I looked at it. And Kwanzaa is celebrated by as many as 20 million people around the world. I've seen celebrations of Kwanzaa in the UK, among our brothers and sisters in the UK. So other countries and Africans and Caribbean, things like this, other countries have started celebrating Kwanzaa over the past, I don't know going back how far, but I've seen other celebrations of Kwanzaa outside of this country, okay? All right, so hopefully you will attend a Kwanzaa celebration in your city. Hopefully they have some. Check with your local African American museum, check with your cultural organizations, things like this, right? So the first fruit celebrations are recorded in African history as far back as ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, and Nubia, and appear in ancient and modern times In other classical African civilizations, we see first fruit harvest festivals among the Ashanti of Ghana, okay? The Yoruba of Nigeria, we see them among the Zulu, okay, as well in South Africa, the Matabele, the Thonga, the Lobedu. So we see these celebrations throughout African history. And one of the things I deal with in, I guess, the extended version of some of my Kwanzaa presentations is that Kwanzaa is also, it builds upon 5 fundamental activities that we find in continental African first fruit celebrations. 5 fundamental activities that we find in continental African first fruit celebrations. We find ingathering, reverence, commemoration, recommitment, and celebration. Ingathering, reverence, commemoration, recommitment, and celebration. So we find a time of coming together, a time of reverence for the Creator and our ancestors, recommitment to our people, a time for celebrating our people, celebrating that we're still here. Then also a time to reflect on what's coming, to reflect and plan for the future, reflect on what's coming as well, okay? To put things in perspective also. But we see 5 fundamental activities of continental first fruit harvest celebrations also, okay? All right, so hopefully at the Kwanzaa celebrations you go to, you'll learn a lot. And this year, because, you know, the film Black Panther was so important, and we know that in the film Black Panther, when towards the beginning of the film, when T'Challa is fighting against M'Baku in the ritual combat to see who was going to be the king of Wakanda and sit on the throne, T'Challa's stepmother, played by Angela Bassett, her name is Ramonda, she says, show them who you are, right? When he's losing, she says, show them who you are. Well, before you can show them who you are, you must know who you are. So what Kwanzaa does is it helps to reconnect African people, African Americans, to our history, to our culture, so that we can take our minds back. We can reclaim our history and culture that's been stolen during the transatlantic slave trade, okay? So this is very, very important. We understand that a people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past in the present and the future to meet the needs of the community. Okay, a people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past in the present and the future to meet the needs of the community. And one of the main reasons why we're in the predicament that we're in right now is because we've been stripped of our history and culture and we don't know who we are. So we've been taught to see reality through the eyes of Europeans, right? And we've been taught to hate who we are and love who we can't be. Okay, so this is why reclaiming our history and culture is so important, all right? If you have a problem with buffering, just try to refresh the screen. At our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, we have you can order like the Kwanzaa lectures, presentations I've done past few years, because last year, the presentation was, it was dealing with Kwanzaa in the Donald Trump era. And it was dealing with how a lot of African Americans want to celebrate Kwanzaa, right? Because Trump was president, and they're seeing a rise in white supremacy and a rise in hate crimes and things like this, and they realize that some Kwanzaa is very important. So this year, you know, February 16th, the film Black Panther debuted, and it did over $700 million domestically. It's done over 1.3 billion worldwide. #1 movie in the U.S. for 5 straight weeks. It was setting records with openings in different countries, things like this. And one of the reasons why the film Black Panther was so popular and did so well here in the U.S. is because it was not another slave movie. And even though slavery is a part of our history and very important to understand, Um, Many of our people are tired of seeing slave movies. We're tired of seeing ourselves brutalized and killed and beaten and things like this in the movies, especially. So with Black Panther, what we see is we see a fictitious African nation called Wakanda that has never been colonized. They weren't conquered by Europeans, which is like Ethiopia. You know, so because we know Emperor Menelik II defeated the Italians in 1896, March of 1896, the Battle of Ottawa. And then 1936, Haile Selassie defeats the Italians again. Mussolini, he defeats the Italians again, okay? So when we look at Wakanda and in the film Black Panther connects you to African history, African culture, African language, spiritual systems, etc. I've done 3 like main lectures dealing with the film Black Panther, so I've done like a lot of research on it. And Kwanzaa was created in 1966, and the Black Panther character was created in 1966. And we see the Black Panther character is introduced July 1966, issue number 52 of the Fantastic Four comic book, right? And when we look at the film, we see it connects us to African language, because the language that they're speaking, T'Challa, General Okoye, Nakia, and the language he's speaking to his father, T'Chaka, that's isiXhosa. isiXhosa is spoken in Southern Africa, and isiXhosa is a Bantu language. Well, Kiswahili is a Bantu language as well. So when we look at the film, we see how it reconnects African Americans to African culture, African history, spiritual systems. When we look at the Panther deity of Bast, which is short for Bastet, which comes straight out of ancient chemistry, comes straight out of ancient Egypt. Okay? And Bastet was a deity, a netter, okay? One of the forces of nature, a netter, that had a female body and the head of a black cat. Okay, this comes straight out of ancient Kemet. This is one of the deities, one of the Neteru, Neter for singular, Neteru for plural. So the film Black Panther is very, very powerful on multiple levels, but you have to understand African history, language, culture, spiritual systems, and then you have to understand the history of the Black Panther comic book. Because I had to go study the history of the Black Panther comic book. I've read over 100 articles dealing with the film Black Panther, but I bought a book that dealt with the 52-year history of the Black Panther comic book and characters and storylines and themes, because we see those in the film. Okay, so I understood the history and culture, but I didn't know the history of the Black Panther comic book. I had to go research that. So you have to understand all of that to understand the movie. Because see, when Eric Killmonger was created in 1973 by Donald McGregor for Marvel Comics. So when you see Killmonger throw T'Challa over Warrior Falls, because Warrior Falls is where they have the ritual combat, where the waterfall is. That's called Warrior Falls. Well, when Killmonger throws T'Challa over the waterfall, that comes out of Jungle Action Comics number 1973 issue. I think it was issue number 6. That comes straight out the comic book. So you have to understand the comic book to understand the movie, to understand what you're seeing. Okay, so it's a very, very deep movie, and this ties right into Kwanzaa. And you know, I saw more people wearing African garb going to see the film Black Panther than wear African garb going to Kwanzaa celebrations. So this year's, and each year, my Kwanzaa presentation is relevant. So we deal with some of the history of Kwanzaa. We deal with how it ties to African cultures, things like this, right? But then I also make it relevant and tied into what's going on right now. So this year we're dealing with Kwanzaa, We're dealing with from Kwanzaa to Wakanda, right? And reconnecting African people to African culture and history for self-empowerment in this era of Donald Trump and a rise of white supremacy. Okay, all this stuff, all of this is connected. How's everybody doing? All right. Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. Okay. And if you like this type of information, hey, if you want to donate to the African History Network, that definitely helps us to keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting our radio show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. And then also, if you don't have a PayPal account, go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, click on the yellow donate button, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, okay? We have online courses that I teach that are all on demand. You can watch at your own pace. It's a 10-course online bundle pack. Includes an online class I did dealing with the film Black Panther, but includes ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Ancient Kemet, which is one of the original names for Egypt, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. The Ma'afa deals with our Holocaust. It's a Kiswahili word, which means the great disaster. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's a 14-hour, 7-session online course that I teach. It's all on demand. It's already recorded. Watch at your own pace. And it includes 10 courses in that bundle pack. That's on sale $60, regularly $130. It makes a great gift. So if you want to buy it for someone else as a gift, just email me at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can purchase it, email it to me, email me, let me know who it's for, and I'll enroll them in the class. Okay. All right. So hopefully, how many of y'all are going to Kwanzaa celebrations? Hopefully you all will make make it to Kwanzaa celebrations this year. Yeah, 7 days to make it to one. Okay. And I know churches celebrate Kwanzaa because it's not, even though Kwanzaa will deal with spirituality, it deals with faith. The seventh principle is Imani, which means faith. You don't have to belong to a particular religion or anything like that to participate in Kwanzaa, all right? So you'll have some churches that will celebrate Kwanzaa. For some people, they may feel uncomfortable because it's something that's different and something that's new, all right? Well, the only time growth occurs is when you step outside your comfort zone and learn things that you don't already know. And you go to Kwanzaa celebrations, I mean, you're going to learn some things that are outside the circumference of your own awareness. You know, just because you don't like them or disagree with them does not mean that they are not true. Just means you have to do some research to understand what they're talking about. But what's interesting is that, you know, we have to ask ourselves the question, would most African Americans be Christians if the slave master did not force Christianity upon our ancestors? I mean, that's a legitimate question. Because most African people prior to the transatlantic slave trade were not Christians, and a lot of the African people who were captured and enslaved, they were Muslims or they were practicing traditional African spiritual systems. You're going to have a smaller amount who were Christians, because like in the Congo, when you read The Destruction of Black Civilization by Dr. Chancellor Williams, we see in the Congo, we're going to see a lot of them are going to be converted to Catholicism, right? Before they're enslaved. We're going to see that happen. But the majority of African people who were caught up in the transatlantic slave trade, majority of them were not Christians. So a question we should ask ourselves is, would most African Americans be Christians if the slave master did not force Christianity on us? The answer is no. Actually, answer is hell no. But answer is no, right? So Kwanzaa helps to reconnect African people to what we had and who we were before our history was interrupted by foreigners, fakers, and fools who came into the continent of Africa and interrupted our history, took our culture away from us, took our history away from us, took our language away from us. This is what Kwanzaa does. Sonia said, yes, get info that the holidays that we do celebrate are made up. They were created. Yeah. So this is something I talk about in my presentations. I encourage people to read African People and European Holidays, A Mental Genocide by Dr. Ishaka Musa Barashango. And I think I have one of the volumes here. This is volume 2, book 2. He has a book 1 and a book 2. I have book 1 somewhere around here. I can't find it. I don't know where the hell it is. This is book 2, African People and European Holidays, A Mental Genocide by Dr. Ishaka Musa Barashango. Okay. Now, I'm not beating up on anybody who celebrates Christmas. I understand that. Okay. I understand that. And I understand that, we're all going through a 12-step process recovering from the side effects of white supremacy. I understand that. And our history and culture has been taken away from us. European history and culture has been superimposed upon us. That's why 153 years after chattel slavery ended, most African Americans still carry their slave master's name. 153 years after chattel slavery ended, most African Americans still carry their slave master's name because that history and culture has been taken away from us. I understand that, right? But people should read this book, book 1 and book 2, because this deals with the history of these various holidays that we celebrate, and it deals with the origins of them to understand what we're really celebrating. So, I don't tell people that they shouldn't celebrate the holidays. What I tell people is that you should understand the history of what it is that you're celebrating, because most of us don't. Okay, when we understand the history of the holidays that we're celebrating, either 1, you're going to stop celebrating them, or 2, it's going to change the way that you celebrate it. Okay. But we have to take our minds back. Bantu Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters, he said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So we have to take our minds back. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, African American business owners, hey, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, and we'll let you know how you can advertise on the audio podcast of our radio shows and different broadcasts. We do the audio podcast. You can advertise there. We take your 30-second and 60-second audio commercial, put into the podcast. We're on 6 different podcast platforms. We're on iTunes, Castbox, TuneIn, Blog Talk Radio, and 2 other ones as well. So each episode, we reach thousands of people across the country. This is a very effective, low-cost way for you to bring on new customers also. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We have a special promotion for a few days more. Get 50% off your first month. Your second month is free, okay? Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. All right. Okay, so once again, I will be in Detroit. Last year I was in Los Angeles. I was in Los Angeles, and I was in Atlanta and Los Angeles last year for Kwanzaa. Okay, the last 4 days of Kwanzaa. Speaking in Atlanta, there were Rick Mathis, director of the film Black Friday, one of the documentaries I'm in, and then I was at the CAREST Unity Center in Los Angeles. I was speaking there December 31st. I was there New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, if I remember correctly. So this year I'm in Detroit, as far as I know, unless somebody books me to go somewhere else. But I'm in Detroit. I know the first 3 days, Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. And I'm speaking there the second day of Kwanzaa. So the Malcolm X grassroots movement. Each day a different group sponsors it. So the first day is the Million Man March Alumni Association and the the National African Liberation Day Committee. That's the first day. Second day is Malcolm X grassroots movement. So I think this is my 4th or 5th year speaking for them. So I'll be that's Each day is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. On the weekend, I'm not sure what the times are, but you can visit the website, theright.org, WRIGHT, theright.org. And they have the information there. They have an African marketplace all 7 days. So be sure to support the vendors. I'll be a vendor the first 3 days there. Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, 315 Warren Avenue in Detroit. I'm speaking the second day. And, we have to make sure, it's one thing to talk about economic empowerment, but you can't go and spend your money with white corporations for Christmas and Black Friday. Then when you go to events with African American vendors, you have like $10 to spend with 20 vendors because you spend all your money with the white corporations, and a lot of that stuff you don't need, and you trying to buy for people who either you're trying to impress or you're wasting money, you're going overboard, So we have to do better at that because we're programmed to go into debt on Black Friday and for Christmas. And the majority of those dollars we're spending with white-owned corporations. So then when we have our own cultural events and we have an African marketplace, we went and spent our money with these other people. And they're not at these events spending their money with us. We're spending our money with these other people, right? And then when it comes time to support our own businesses, we don't have any money. This is one of the reasons why I said, we need to do a pre-Black Friday marketplace. We need to do pre-Black Friday bazaars and do it like the first weekend of November, right? Because a lot of African Americans have more money at the first of the month than towards the end of the month. We also need to do pre-Kwanzaa like programs and do it the first weekend in December. But at these Kwanzaa celebrations, we have to make sure that we support African American owned businesses, not just the food vendors. We'll support the food vendors. We need to support them as well, especially the healthy food vendors. But also the other businesses that are there as well. Okay. All right. And we understand that the fourth principle of Kwanzaa is Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Okay. So all these principles tie into what it is that we should be doing. All right, who do we have here? Regina said, I'm over the Christian thing. I do think some people need it. All right. All right. And I understand people are molded by the way that their upbringing, they're brought up, things like this, right? So, I was Catholic till I was 13. And my dad told me I didn't have to go back, so I didn't. But I understand that. I mean, talk about, I went to catechism class on Saturday. So in Catholicism, you don't have, we didn't have Sunday school. We had catechism classes on Saturday. And the catechism class is when you send your Black children to go and have the white nuns teach them about the Bible. And we're looking at all these pictures of all these white people, right? Because all the images they showed us, because the nun was white who was teaching the catechism classes. All right, I can't remember, Sister Mary or something. I forgot her name. Old white woman. She was very nice, but it was an old white woman. And all the pictures they're showing us of Abraham and Paul and David and all these pictures they show, these are all white people. So go. So we just sitting there. All right. And then at the end of catechism class, we had the kneel down in front of the Virgin Mary, a statue of the Virgin Mary, and with our crucifix, right? And recite Hail Marys. And so we would say, as however, so the nun would say, okay, we'll say you recite 25 Hail Marys and then you can leave. So we would do that. We get on our knees and hold our crucifix, or we would kneel, thing like this. We wear our crucifix and here, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Okay, you're gonna take me back there. I'm not trying to go back there, but I still remember that, right? The Hail Marys. So you say 20 Hail Marys, you say 25 Hail Marys, things like this, and we recite that in front of this statue of the Virgin Mary, who is a copy of the Black Madonna and Child that comes from Offset or Isis, right? Who's African, but they didn't tell us any of that. Okay, so I understand us being molded by our upbringing. But at some point, we have to realize we have to take our minds back, because they're not going to give them back to us. Okay. At some point, you had a rosary bead. Yeah. So you had a crucifix. Yeah. And you had the rosary beads. That's right. Gigi. Yeah. So you wear the crucifix, but you had the rosary beads. And then, like, for each Hail Mary, so you use the rosary beads, right? And you would use it to count how many Hail Marys that you said as well. Yeah, I remember that. Don't want to, but I remember that. All right. Okay, Gigi said she was Roman Catholic till she was 19. Yeah. So I was Catholic till I was 13. I was about done with it. All right. Just the fact that it's a Roman Catholic should tell us get the hell out. But all right. But so I understand. So people, African Americans of all different religious persuasions and faiths, should go to Kwanzaa celebrations, because you're going to learn a lot. Okay. Especially when you come and I'm speaking, you're definitely going to learn a lot. All right. Okay. Who else do we have here? And let me try to pull this up here. Who else we have here? And I've written articles dealing with Kwanzaa also, as well. See, I remember that, Brother Michael, using each bead to say Hail Mary. Yes. Yeah. Now here is H-I-L. It's H-A-I-L. Hail. Okay. It's not. Just so people who don't know, right? It's not H-E-L-L. Hail Mary. It's H-I-L-L. All right. But these are things that stay with you. You remember these, right? So let's see who we see who else we have here. We got Pat, Daryl, and those in Detroit. Once again, be sure to come out to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. They're celebrating Kwanzaa all 7 days, okay? And it's free and open to the public. Bring the family. We definitely need to do that as well, okay? All right, so first day of Kwanzaa is Umoja, which means unity. And that's extremely important. And with Kwanzaa, the Nguzo Saba, that is that's the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. This is a principle that you practice each day, but these are principles that we practice throughout the year. Okay, so this is extremely important. What else we have here? Okay. She said, my granddaughter is in an African-based school, and they held their pre-Kwanzaa celebration December 17th through December 21st, and it really worked out well. Yeah, and there's studies that show how our children learning their history and culture helps them do better academically as well. Okay, so that's very important also. There's one from the University of Pittsburgh. I talk about it in some of my presentations. There's one from the University of Pittsburgh and Harvard University. There's a joint study. AfricanGlobe.net had an article dealing with this from January 1st, 2013. AfricanGlobe.net had an article entitled Black Teens with Racial Pride Do Better in School. Black Teens with Racial Pride Do Better in School. And that's from AfricanGlobe.net, okay? And that's from January 1st, 2013. And they talk about how this study from the University of Pittsburgh and Harvard University shows that when parents use racial socialization, such as talking to their children or engaging in activities that promote feelings of racial knowledge, racial pride, and connection, it offsets racial discrimination's potentially negative impact on students' academic development. Okay, so there's a correlation between our children's self-esteem and knowledge of themselves and how well they do academically also. All right, so that's why this type of information, Kwanzaa celebrations, African American History Month celebrations, etc. This is why this is so important for our children also. Okay, so check out that article from AfricanGlobe.net as well. And there was a recent study from late 2017 from Professor Sharita Butler Barnes, also dealing with African American girls and how their self-esteem is tied to racial knowledge and them understanding their history, things like this. Okay. All right. So we have Gigi, Regina. All right. So the second day of Kwanzaa is Kujichagulia, which means self-determination. And I'll be speaking at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, December 27th for the second day of Kwanzaa. The third day of Kwanzaa is Ujima, collective work and responsibility, collective work and responsibility. And, you know, one of the things Dr. Shaka Musa Barashango talked about, who wrote African People and European Holidays and Mental Genocide, he talks about how historically in African society, they spent at least 1/3 of the year in celebration because they worked together, they practiced Ujima, collective work and responsibility, and they got the work done so they had time for the celebration. And these celebrations are tied to their cultures. They're tied to their culture, and your culture deals with people's art, music, dance, their cosmology, understanding the universe as an orderly system. It ties into their language. Their history influences their culture influences their history, just like Juneteenth, right? Juneteenth is a cultural celebration among African Americans, Juneteenth, which commemorates June 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger delivered General Order Number 3 to the enslaved Africans there in Galveston, Texas. And they found out that they were free. This was 2 weeks after the Civil War ended. Civil War ended June 2nd of 1865. Now, some people tie this into the Emancipation Proclamation of January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation did not free the slaves. Okay, go read it. LOC.gov, Library of Congress website, or archives.gov. The Emancipation Proclamation did not free the enslaved Africans. Okay, it was a military strategy to strip the southern states of their slaves, but it basically said slaves in the states that were in rebellion in the Confederacy, they were free. But the states and border states like Missouri and Maryland and things like this, the slaves in the border states, they were still slaves. So the states that seceded from the Union, you didn't have any control over them. So you saying that slaves are free, that didn't make them free. No, what happened was, as the Union troops will go through and gain control of these different Confederate territories, they would then set the slaves free. But they weren't just automatically free because the Union said so. You're in Confederate territory. You're in a Confederate state that seceded from the Union, set up their own government, set up their own laws, created their own monetary system. So the fourth principle of Kwanzaa is Ujamaa, which means cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. Fifth principle is Nia, which means purpose. And we know women named Nia, like Nia Long, okay? Nia. To make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Nia, purpose. Two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you know why you were born. And when we name our children, when we give our children African names, it has something to do with us understanding their purpose in life. It has something to do with characteristics, or it gives them names to aspire to. Okay? It's not just a name that sounds good, or it's not just a name of something you couldn't afford. Kuumba, which is the sixth principle, means creativity. To do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. And the last principle, Imani, which means faith. Imani, Imani, which means faith. To believe with all of our heart in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. Okay, Imani, which means faith. All right. Okay, so those in Detroit, hey, hope to see you at one of these events. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, also email me at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. And if you're in the Detroit area, I'm still available to speak at Kwanzaa events. Even if you're in, Ohio, if you're in Ohio, Chicago, we can still make it happen. That's still relatively close. African-American business owners also email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. The presentation I do Thursday, I'll record it. That's the plan. I'll record it. We'll have it available on DVD, and we'll have it on digital download as well. And we have a lot of digital downloads of my lectures available at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com. We have the Black Panther 8 digital download bundle pack. Includes 8 of my presentations, includes 3 of my presentations dealing with the film Black Panther, and 5 other presentations as well. That's on sale $50, regularly $80. It's all digital downloads, watch from around the world. And you can download the lectures and keep them. They're yours. Okay. All right. So look, hey, we have to get out of here. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. The African History Network, turn on the notification alert so you'll know when we go live. Follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, Michael Imhotep on YouTube. And you can also go to officialkwanzaawebsite.org, officialkwanzaawebsite.org for more information about Kwanzaa as well, information about the Nguzo Saba also. And, the greeting for Kwanzaa is a Baragani. Baragani means what's the news? Usually response is either Kwanzaa or the day of Kwanzaa that you are celebrating. So the first day would be Umoja. So if somebody says a Habaragani, then the response would be Umoja, or you could say Kwanzaa. And also, you may see, we post information each day on our fan page about Kwanzaa and the principle of the day. So when you see Heri Za Kwanzaa, Heri, Heri Za Kwanzaa, that means happy Kwanzaa. Okay. All right. So, hey, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct your own behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. I want to say happy holidays from the African History Network to you and your family. And also say Heri Za Kwanzaa and Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.